Today, what I want to talk about is the Hillberry Gateway Project. And when we work in the arts, I think it's important to begin with that artists are storytellers. We tell stories through our paintings, our sculpture, our fabric. We tell it through our theater, our dance. We tell stories through our music. And I think that there's a real story to tell about the Hillberry Gateway Project. It's a tale of overcoming challenges through creativity, determination, and teamwork. And in theater and dance and music, collaboration and teamwork are vital for successful projects. And so without further ado, I'm going to try to share my screen. This usually takes me a minute to get right, and we will begin our story. So let's begin our story. And it was once upon a time, 20 minutes late, and over 50 years ago in the city of Detroit. It was around 1962 when our story begins, and Alex Karras was not acting. He was still playing football for the Lions, and Diana Ross was a member of the Supremes. And two men got together and decided to change the history on the corner of Hancock and Cass. And it was President Clarence Hillberry, president of Wayne State University, and Leonard Leone, the director of theater. And they decided to start a graduate acting program at Wayne State University called the Hillberry Repertory Company. And to do that, they purchased this building from the First Church of Christ Scientists and converted it into a theater to which people came. And the idea was that this would be the temporary home of the Hillberry graduate program for 2 years. Temporary being a relative term. We then the university decided to reconsider the definition of temporary about 50 years later. And so in 2009-10, when Midtown Inc. is working on the Walkable Cast project, the university is providing the Live Midtown incentives, and the Kresge Foundation and Wayne State University got together to create a study about the economic viability and the importance of a performance center that would replace the Hillberry on campus, and how in fact it would serve the neighborhood. And so a study was conducted. And at the end of the study, there were images of a potential building, and there were drawings of potential spaces within the building, all intended, of course, to be used in a fundraising effort along the way. And at this point in time, the university had launched the Pivotal Moments Capital Campaign. The Hillberry Gateway Project became one of the leading or main priorities within the capital campaign, and we were given permission to move forward. And so we did. And we assembled a team, and the team was, of course, facilities planning and management at the university, who has been outstanding. HGA is a design and architecture firm out of Minneapolis. They're an international firm. They actually specialize in performing arts centers and in hospitals. Hamilton Anderson was the local architect who also serves as the construction manager piece, continuing to take it through the process of getting it built. Auerbach, Pollock, and Freelander were the theatrical consultants, Jaffe Holden, the acoustic and audio and video consultants. And they become an important part of this process because Gretchen Ballade came forth with a very large gift to turn the Hillberry into the Gretchen Ballade Jazz Center. And of course, the acoustics became a vital component of that. And we were thrilled to have Jaffe Holden on board. And then, of course, the College of Fine Performing Communication Arts the departments of both Maggie Allesey Department of Theater and Dance, and of course the Department of Music, all became part of this team to begin this process. So when you undertake this process, the very first thing you do is called programming. And in programming, you look at existing facilities, you meet with faculty and staff, students, administrators, FPNM, community members, alumni, neighbors, and you talk about what it is you're looking for, but you also take time at this point to determine what are the actual spatial needs. What would a scene shop look like? What does a costume shop look like? Do we need a crafts area in the costume shop, a spray booth for spray painting properly, safely, an area by which fabric can be dyed and manipulated for the costume shop? How many dressing rooms do you need? Do you need a warm-up room? All of these things go into consideration in the programming, and it all becomes guided by the educational mission of the areas, and this becomes important. So after programming, we began, and we met monthly for a long time with design, research, sketching, measuring, drawing, repeating as necessary. And at one point in time, we finally landed on the very first design of the Hillberry Gateway. Expansive building with a lobby that stretched from Forest to Hancock. You're looking from Cass Avenue, looking west. Imagine sitting in Shangri-La and looking out the window. That's where we're at. With with a two-tiered lobby with balconies, truly an expansive, beautiful space that met all of our needs in a really very handsome way, I think. And then we found reality. And we weren't just over budget, we were way over budget. And what we didn't know at the time, because this had been priced and by the designers, it's a huge firm that has pricing, but what they were unaware of in Minneapolis, that at the time there was $3 billion worth of construction planned in Detroit. That included the Hudson Tower was already in the planning, as well as many other renovation projects throughout downtown and Midtown. And the other piece that we didn't know is that sometime around 2008, the majority of the trade contractors, the electricians, the plumbers, the heating and air conditioning people, masons and carpenters that can handle projects this site had left Detroit. At that point in time, with the downturn in the economy, and they saw no future in Detroit for ongoing construction projects. And so the ones that remained could ask for any amount they wanted, and and they did. And so we repeated as needed and went back to the drawing board and began to really work this. So with in the meantime, we had permission, and we knew that the McKenzie house was going to have to move. And so we started moving the McKenzie house. And in the meantime, we continued to work to get the price down where we could afford the building. And so here's a kind of an aerial view of that building. So what did we do? Well, the low-hanging fruit was the balconies. So we cut the balconies. After we cut the balconies, that means we didn't need the upper lobby. A lot of structural steel involved, great. Moving in the right direction. But you'll notice that the Gresham Valet Jazz Center stage actually was on Hancock Street. And so it was flipped back around to be very much in the same space that the Hillberry stage is currently, which allowed us to use some infrastructure. We also cut the lobby in half and put the main lobby in the Hillberry Gateway Center, and would make use of the existing lobby in the Hillberry and just use 2 box offices rather than have one large connecting lobby. And we continued to work. Initially, the price was coming down, but eventually we found out that our partners in, we just couldn't get the price where we needed. And no matter what we did, it seemed that the subcontractors weren't lowering their prices or the contractor. And at that point, the university severed ties with the original contractor. And when that happened, we had to hire a new contractor. And that was over the summer. And if you know about construction in Detroit, summer is prime time to get some building done. So we lost the summer, but we eventually got the price, brought on a new contractor, Rockford, as the new construction manager. And we started working towards the development of the building that you see in front of you. And we were ready to go. And yes, we stopped again. And we stopped again for another summer. Because as we all recall, this is a March beginning. And we went through the summer, the second summer in a row, without being able to move forward. But finally, we were able to move forward, and we started breaking ground in October of 2020. For the record, that was 25 months after the ceremonial breaking ground, when this project was launched as here we go, but now we're underway until the work had to stop again. But this time, what happened was, it seems that under the streets of Detroit, there's really are not very good records of where everything from electrical to sewer lines to water lines are located. And the sewer line that feeds the apartments heading on up this block, the condos, was going to turn and run out to Hancock Street, except there was a large underground vault in the way. So we had to reroute. So you think, well, fine, let's take the sewer line out to Forest Street. Great idea. Except the sewer line on Forest was at a much higher elevation than the one we were dealing with. And I think we can all agree we would prefer the wastewater and sewage to run downhill. So the only option left was to separate the 2 buildings, the Hillberry, the current Hillberry, the Gretchen Valet Jazz Center, and the Hillberry Gateway, and dig a very deep hole behind the Hillberry Theater that actually was deeper than the basement of the current Hillberry. So now we have to redesign or design an entire support system to make sure that the Hillberry doesn't fall while we dig the hole, to reinforce the foundation so we can run the sewer through. And we're paused again. But eventually, with this great team that we have, we managed to get through that. And we kept digging and began construction. And here's where we are today. If you've walked by, this picture was taken December 30th. The building has been stood up. The entire footprint of the building is in place. You can walk inside and see walls. And we continue to move forward on this building. Here's an updated picture of it from standing on Forest, looking at the side of the building, and you can see the windows. If you look at the upper left-hand part of the picture, that's going to be a giant louver because all of the heating and air conditioning and boilers and water heaters are all up in that space. and we move forward. But this is a story about overcoming adversity and working together. And it's a long story because it's been a long time. And it's not just that we had a contractor that we had to replace, and it's not just that we had COVID, and it's not just that the sewer line was in the wrong place, but it's also a story about the people who have persevered and have changed over during this process. There have been 2 associate vice presidents for facilities planning and management during the course of this project. There have been 3 full-time different university project managers on this project with interim project managers in between. So I think we have a total of 5 trying to guide this project. It's a nice time to give a shout out to my friend Cadest, who is now the project manager and absolutely phenomenal at that job. The lead architect for Hamilton Anderson took a job with another architectural firm. His replacement has given birth to 2 children during the course of this project and has since also moved on from Hamilton Anderson. We are in the middle of a transition of dean in the College of the Fine Performing and Communication Arts. And those are the personnel challenges. But like everyone else in the world, we have also faced significant supply chain issues, escalating costs that have caused us to purchase items long before we actually need them on site. One of the theaters is a flexible space theater. The entire movable seating section has been purchased and is in storage at the manufacturer's plant in Montreal, waiting to be delivered sometime in the next year, closer to January than December. We have had roof product that had to be changed because we couldn't get the product. And so the team worked to determine what is another viable product approved by the university. And none of these are daily decisions. These are all decisions that take months to overcome. We've had steel held up at the bridge in Canada because we couldn't get it across the bridge and through customs, delaying the project by days as each of those pieces comes in. But here's the determination piece that I think is most important. Through it all, we had determined the size of the scene shop, the costume shop, dye room, number of dressing rooms, what the performance spaces were to be about. Through it all, we have maintained on budget and in program. And I think that's due to the work of this team that came together and collaborated to work so diligently to make sure that we understand that we continue to understand and stand by the function of this building. It's not just a performance space, it's an education space. And we continue to say that. What do we need to make this the space that will be the education center for the performing arts for this century? And we've moved forward quite successfully with that. And I'm really grateful to all who were involved. So here's the building. And obviously renderings of the building. It will have a lovely frontage onto Cass. This is my favorite rendering because I think if you look at down the alley where the students are walking between the 2 buildings, when the sewer line happened and we had to separate the building, I actually think it was one of the greatest mistakes or issues to happen to the building, because this alleyway, which will look very much like the Belt in downtown Detroit, if you know that, provides a place to hang art. There are outlets for students to plug in amplifiers. It moved the cafe in the building. If you can see the windows right there, to the dark windows, that's a cafe that will have windows to the inside and the outside. People can, when occupied, people can come and get their morning coffee in the neighborhood, grab lunch, hang out in this space. The large patio is becoming an outdoor performing arts space. We have installed infrastructure that will allow us to put some lighting, some theatrical lighting out to highlight the space. I think it's going to be a phenomenal place. The students will enter backstage by walking through that park that's on the west side of the Hillberry that no one ever seems to use, but it will become activated, and the production space is then back there. And so as students migrate from class in Old Main to production, the park now becomes an important piece, and I think it'll be a beautiful flow. The Gretchen Ballet Jazz Center will look very much like the Hillberry, but it will be cleaned up. There will be the name will be across the frieze. You can see there's a jazz sign, a neon sign on the side of the building, but it will remain inviting into a beautiful space. The lobby of the Hillberry Gateway, this is an early rendering. It's expansive. It's a place where we can gather as a community, where we can have dinners. If you're standing on stage, this is what it will look like, only we hope with many more people than the two that are drawn into the picture, but it will be a beautiful space at the Hillberry Gateway. And if you're in the theater looking down on the stage, it remains an intimate space. The depth of the theater is no different than the depth of the current Hillberry, so with a much better viewing angle. The Valhalla Center, whoever knew the Hillberry space could look this great. It's going to be also a beautiful space with phenomenal acoustics. So it's a project that's been going on for 6 years now. And this will be the year when the university will take occupancy of the Hillberry Gateway. So I'm looking forward as we go through this year to finishing this up. And thank you.